Hello and welcome to the Great Australian Craft Show number 7. Wow, this year is zipping by. I can't believe it's October already and we're talking about the C word. No, not a naughty C word. Christmas. Well, a bit naughty because Christmas will be here before we know it. Wow, it's been a busy year and Christmas is coming very fast. So today, in today's class, we're going to make some awesome wreath cards. This is one of my foam stamps. Actually, I should introduce myself. I'm sorry. Hi, I'm Melinda from Scrapbookingncraft. I always forget to do that. I know who I am. So we're using one of my fantastic foam stamps from a couple of months ago. I'm obsessed with this foam stamp. I use it on everything. I love the fact that it curls. And there's actually some new foam stamps, some different shapes coming out for October. They'll be out by the time you're viewing this video. And I'm excited about those as well. So in today's class, we are going to make some Merry Christmas wreath cards. So these cards are 6 by 6 inches, and there's several ways you can create the same effect. So I'm going to show you the several ways to make the embellishments. So we're going to make all these embellishments ourselves, all the wreath stamped images, and then we're going to put some cards together. So you may not see me put each design card together, but I'll show you one card, and it doesn't matter if you're doing the painting method, I'll explain that in a minute, heat embossing method or the paper method. Putting the cards together, the last step is exactly the same. So depending on how much time we've got, I'll show you making all the pieces, and then we'll construct one card. Doesn't matter what material we do it in, you'll be able to construct any card. Just wanted to show you different ways to use this stamp. So this is our small vine stamp, and it'll be on special for 25% off for the month of, for a month after the craft show. So probably till middle of November, till I go around to take it off the site on sale. So this is our small version. You can actually get a larger version of this. All our products can be made in different sizes. So this is probably the smallest it can go, unfortunately. But we do have one that's a bit larger, which would make an awesome wreath for more home decor than stamping or art journaling. Got an idea. Oh, my head's just full of ideas. So we can certainly alter our products as well. Okay, so explaining these cards. So we're basically going to make a wreath out of our stamp, wreath embellishments, and then put our card together. So I've been deep diving in my stash, so I do apologise. These papers are probably no longer available. But my business is all about chipboard, which is the Merry Christmas here, foam stamps and stencils. I'm just raiding my stash to find papers and things. But there's a huge amount of Christmas papers out in the world. And my friend at Hillbilly Scrapping has loads of them on her website. You could even use plain cardstock as well. So this first card, these white pieces with the gold on it is gold embossing powder. And these coloured pieces here are clear embossing powder. So that's what I'm going to show you first. This card here is all gold embossing. So these ones are all done with gold embossing powder. The reason I like the embossing powder is it's a bit shiny. And gives a bit of shine to the card. So you can see sort of the shine on the card. This particular one at the back is made using paint. So as you can see, it doesn't have a shine on it. I'll put a couple of little bling on it. Don't know whether I'm happy with the bling. I don't know. It's growing on me. But this one is made with paint, Dina Wakley paint. So as you can see, it doesn't have a shine on it. So depending on that's why I stuck the bling on, because it needed a bit of shine. Depending on what look you're going for or what you like, you can make this traditional colours, which is sort of our reds and greens, and this is going into a bit of aqua. We can make it this sort of tone, which is more sort of the heritage vintage. This is a bit more modern Christmas with gold and red. So you can certainly play around with all your different colours. So what you're going to need is a foam stamp. So these are some of the embellishments that I've pre-cut out. There is a bit of fussy cutting in this, but it is very easy fussy cutting. So as you can see, when we stamp this image, we can stamp it curly. Or we can stamp it straight, but I like the idea that I can curl it around. So these are a couple of pieces that I've cut off. So when we get to that bit, we don't waste our cut-offs. Okay, so let's get started. So these are the embellishments I'm going to show you how to make in several different ways. This one is the gold embossing powder. So you can see it's got a shine on it because all embossing powders are plastic, so they have a shine on it. This one's glitter, green glitter embossing powder. Again, I don't stock the embossing powders. Hillbilly Scrapping has a huge range of embossing powders. I've been playing with some of the new Tim Holtz ones on another product that are speckled. They look really cool. This is a clear embossing powder. So it's got the shine and it darkens the paper a little, so it's quite subtle. So that one's nice to mix in, and these two are done with Dina Wakley paints. This is another one on the clear embossing powder on the paper. So I love how it sort of darkens it a bit and it's a bit more subtle. So let's get started. I'll put those out of the way. Put my completed cards out of the way. I've got stuff everywhere beyond the camera. So I'm just going to bring in a couple of pieces of scrap A4 paper because I need those. We've got some, don't even know whether this brand is in stock anymore, but this is the gold embossing powder I used on all those cards. I've got my clear embossing powder just in a Chinese container, and I also need to find my Versamark ink pad. Now a Versamark ink pad is actually a clear embossing ink pad. So it's great to use with the clear embossing powder, but you can also use it with your gold or any colour. Now mine is not clear anymore because I did the mistake of putting it straight onto a piece of chipboard that has a bit of charcoal on it. So it's a bit discoloured, but we're going to see how it goes. If not, I'll have to go find another one. It shouldn't put a lot of colour on things. So what we're going to do first is we're going to talk about pattern papers. When you're choosing pattern papers to do this, you're wanting pattern papers that are quite subtle in their colour. Let me just grab the one that's got the pattern paper on it. So these ones here are pattern paper, the aqua ones, and these darker ones here. So they're not bold designs. So you don't want to go and choose, for example, have I got one on the back that's no good? I picked up papers that were good. Okay, this one, for example. This paper's no good for this technique. It's too bold. Your image is going to get lost. So what you want to do is I deep dive my stash, and I apologise, some of these papers are from when I had a retail store many, many moons ago, 12 years ago. So some of them are quite old, but as you can see, they're quite subtle in their designs. So I wouldn't use this, for example, because it's going to overpower your stamp. So you're looking for these sort of, this little bit of white won't matter, so we're going to use some of that. This one's really good. This one, because it's got a bit of pattern there, but it's not overpowering. Obviously, this one is no good on the back. This one I've used parts of up here, but not this big white bit because it's going to interrupt. This is a great background for your card, for your wreath, but not a great one for your images. This one's really nice. That one's obviously not. So what I've done is I've gone through and picked sort of tonal colours that'll go together. Which one did that come from? That come from here. So this is one card I'm going to put together. So I've got like a neutral, I've got a light green, and I've got these two that I can do a couple of accent pieces with. So you're wanting colours that will all go together, and then this one I've got, this one will work, even though it's a little bit darker, that'll still work. This one will work, obviously this one won't because it's too dark and it's got too much pattern. This one's nice with the dots, and this one I like that's Kaiser Craft. Obviously this wouldn't work, well it's red and we want green. So, but the pattern is too bold. I hope that makes sense. So you're wanting really subtle patterns. Yes, you can do this on cardstock, but I find that I like the pattern paper because it just gives a bit more interest. So this is the one done on pattern paper. And so it just gives a bit more interest in the background. Just trying to pick up. This one's a green glitter done on a pattern paper. So if I did these on plain cardstock, they just look a bit more flat. I just liked how, oh, they're all paper ones. I just liked how they looked on the cardstock. Now for each card we need 7 stamped images. So I'm not going to bore you and watch you, make you watch me stamp out 7 for every type of thing we're going to do. We're going to just do probably 1 or 2. So let's put that over there. So let's start with our clear embossing powder. I might have to run and get my other Versamark ink pad, but we'll see how we go. So our stamp is nice and clean. I was using paint on it yesterday, so just make sure your stamp is nice and clean. Going to take our embossing Versamark ink pad. You want to make sure it's nice and juicy, and you just want to tap, and I apologise if the table is wobbling. Just want to tap, don't worry about the stem, we're going to cut that off. I usually go over it a couple of times. Now the first one may not work out as well. You may have to get a build-up of ink on your stamp. And that goes for paint as well. Now, when we stamp, we want to stamp straight down, but we want to curl it. So we want to grab its tail and its head and we want to curl it around as far as it'll go. Like I'm sort of pushing there and it won't push very far. That you can sort of do it like this, you can do it curly, but for the wreaths we want to curl it around as far as you can go. You want to pop it straight down and pop your hand on it. The reason we want to put it straight down and don't want any movement like this is because you don't want the ink to move or to double stamp. I've done that a few times and I'll show you how to fix it. But okay, so you want to wait about 5 seconds for the ink to transfer on the paper, and then I think I just have moved that stamp. We'll see how we go. It sort of curled up on me. You could mount it onto, I could stick it onto a onto an acrylic block, but I find I just like to do it with my hand. So I'm just going to put some of this over where my stamped image was. You're not really going to see it, and I should have started with a different colour. That's right, I'll show you this one and then we'll go with a different colour. So stamping the clear embossing powder on, let me just grab my paintbrush. I've tried to move all my supplies off my desk so I can have a bit more of a clean desk. So I've just noticed, where was it? Where did I stamp? Here. So I've just noticed, and you won't be able to see what I'm doing, I've just noticed some powder where I don't want it. So a dry paintbrush will just flick it back into the container, and then we will grab our heat embossing tool and we're going to heat it up. So if you've never heat embossed before, you use a heat tool. You can't use a hairdryer. Let me just put my lid back on my embossing powder so I don't melt that accidentally. Best way to do it is actually pick up your piece of paper, obviously well away from where you're heat embossing. This heat embossing tool is quite quiet, so I can have it on while I'm filming, and you'll see this in a minute. So we're going to heat it up for about 20 seconds off our page, and then we're going to slowly move it. I haven't turned it on yet. Slowly move it and you'll see the embossing, and I'll do a gold one in a minute and you'll see it a bit more. I should have started with the gold one. But you'll see the crystals turn from little crystals to like a solid plastic, because embossing powder is basically plastic granules that heat up. So it takes about 30 seconds to, and I'm going to stop. So as you can see, I'm moving the heat tool very, very quickly and very, very slowly. Now you can see that here, hopefully. You can see the shine on it. You'll see it a bit more when we cut it out. So you can see it's gone. We've got still crystals up here, which you really can't see, and you can see the shininess. See how it darkens the paper? It's really cool. Apologise if my head gets in the way. I've got to be able to see what I'm doing. Going to move my fingers, it's going to get a bit hot where I'm here holding it. So what I like to do is when I've heat embossed it, I like to slowly move back over the piece just to make sure all the crystals are melted. And as you can see, we have our fern shape. What you want to do is when you stamp your 7 for your card, it doesn't matter which direction you start with, excuse me, but you have to do them all the one direction. So I've done this one curling to the left. I need 7 curling to the left. What I mean by that is this one is curling to the left, this one is curling to the right. So we want to go around in a circle with our wreaths, so we need them all curling in the one direction. Now it doesn't matter which direction you go, you need 7 that are facing the left or 7 that are facing the right. And I've got a mixture because I just stamped them all over the pattern paper. As you can see, I'd stamp them any direction and then I pick out 7 because I've done a bunch of these. But if you're just making one card, you need 7 that is the one direction. Let's do that on a darker piece of paper. Actually, let's do some gold ones because you'll see the gold a bit better. Just picking my colours. Let's do some gold one on this one. Okay, so again, we're going to ink up our stamp, and I apologise that was a bad colour to start with. Sometimes with the lighting and the camera, it doesn't pick up quite subtle things. So just inking up our stamp again. Just tapping up and down. What I do is these ones are only about $4 or $5. I've kept one of these as my dirty Versamark ink, and I will use it when I'm using opaque colours like this, and I've got a cleaner one when I want to actually stamp clear. But as you can tell, my ink pad was a little dirty, and you really can't see it on this one. I really can't see that my ink pad is all dirty and crummy. Okay, so we want to take this and we want to stamp it this direction. So I just want to hold it down for a few seconds. Whether you're using paint or whether you're using embossing powder, I still like to hold it down for about 10 to 15 to 20 seconds. Not so much with the paint, but definitely with the embossing powder. Now, I moved it before, so I want to pick it straight up. So I've got my finger on the top and the bottom. So when I pick it up, I just want to go up. I don't want to go side to side. Now, you want to be fairly quick when you're tipping your embossing powder on, because you don't want your ink to dry. What have I got on? No idea what I've got on there. Embossing powder is like glitter. You put it on one project and then you find it for years. So just giving it a tap off, bit on mist down the bottom. So I'm tipping it onto a spare A4 just piece of copy paper, and then I can tip it back in the jar. So here I've got a dry paintbrush, and I'm just going to flick off any powder that is sticking where I don't want it. So you can fix up any areas. Just want to make a few more. Those dots aren't so pronounced in the top. If you flick too much powder off, you can just flick a little bit more on. We'll see if we can get a bit more to go down the bottom. Your ink is basically to hold the ink is basically there to hold the embossing powder granules while you have time to melt them. That's the whole purpose of the ink. I have heat embossed with a glue stick. I've heat embossed with a liquid glue. The ink pad, you tend to get more of a finer stamp than those other mediums. Now we're just going to pick up my heat tool again. You'll see this one a lot better. Okay, a tip is, the reason I pick it up is if you leave it on your surface of your desk, the heat's got to go through the paper, heat up the desk before it heats up the back side of the paper, or the reverse side of the paper. So what I've found is if you hold it up, the heat penetrates a lot quicker. You can also heat it from the bottom as well. A lovely lady watching one of my lives the other day said heat it from the bottom. So you can definitely apply heat from the bottom. I like to do it from the top. It's the way I've always done it, but I always pick up my sheet of paper. This is why I like to keep my piece of paper as big as possible. So just heating up off the design, off the embossing powder. Can't get words today. And you'll sort of see it turning, so you can see the bottom of the leaf. I don't know whether you can. Yeah, you sort of can. You'll see the bottom of the leaf. It's hard to do this on camera. Sorry, just grabbing the paper down the end. It's amazing how far this heat travels. This is a low heat tool. So just slowly moving. You've got to get every piece of the embossing powder heated up to the temperature so it melts. And then you can move on to the next section. One thing I see people heat embossing doing is, I just do it without my cord's all twisted up. I do it without turning it on, is this. You don't want to move your heat tool a lot like this. You want to do that when you're drying paint or glue or stuff in your art journal. You don't want to do that in embossing powders. You want to slowly move up the curl. So as you can see, this is what we've got. So I like that it's shiny. Doesn't matter that it's not perfect. Actually, I like the imperfection of it. So as you can see, the embossing is a little bit lighter down here. It doesn't matter if a little bit of your leaf's missing. When you put it on your wreath, you don't really notice a lot of the imperfections. If you have a big imperfection, I can go back and ink it up again and try to stamp it again, or I just stamp another leaf. Embossing powder, and that is not very expensive. So you can, and it goes a long way. As you can tell, you tip a lot of powder on, but you tip 99.9% of it back in your jar. So you're not using a lot of powder at all. So we're just going to do just reaching for my glitter embossing powder. So this is basically fine glitter mixed with clear embossing powder. These two lots of embossing powder are actually from when I had my retail store 12 years ago. I closed it 12 years ago. So they could be even up to 15 years old. So embossing powder lasts a long time. And this one I think I had at my shop as well. So embossing powder does last quite a while. So I'm just going to do one on here just to show you the glitter. So again, we're just going to ink up our stamp. As I said, you could mount this to a stamping block in the position you want to stamp it on. As I said, doesn't matter if you're stamping left or right, curling it, but you just want to curl it the same way. So I'm just going to pick my bit of paper down here. So this is a great technique and a great thing to go raid your stash, raid your scrap box, gather all those Christmassy themed papers, but they don't necessarily have to be Christmas themed. I don't think the first one I don't think we did was Christmas themed. I just went through and picked out colours that were sort of Christmassy and would go together. So I'm just going to pick that. Oh, you don't want to drop your stamp like that. So this one, sometimes I just like to spoon it on because it's a bit easier. And sometimes I forget where my image is. So I just like to give it a bit of a tap. And I did muck it up when I dropped it. So this top bit, I don't know whether you can see, we've got a big blob up the top and we don't have a tip. So I'm just going to carefully draw back in my tip and just knock a bit of that powder off. If you're a stamper, you probably have those anti-static, they're little, and Hillbilly is getting some of them in for me. It's a little... looks like a tiny cushion that you put over your paper that takes any static off it, so powder doesn't collect where you haven't got the ink, but I don't have one of those, so that's okay. So I'm just going to heat this one up. So this particular embossing powder sometimes goes quite glossy. Depends what mix of the powder I pick up. If I pick up more of the glitter, it sticks there and it's not as glossy. If I pick up more of the clear stuff in my spoon, it goes clear. So you get some really cool effects. So if you're doing this card, you need to go emboss 7 of these to make our card. But what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to tidy up a little bit and come back and show you the painting technique with the acrylic paint, and then we'll construct a card. I'm just going to get the embossing powders off my desk so I don't need those anymore. And we're going to clean up a little, and well, for you, I'll be right back. Okay, so we're set up for our second type of making these wreath stamps. So we've done the heat embossing. This time we're going to play with paint. So this one has got no shine on it and it's done with paint. So depending on what supplies you've got at home, I wanted these videos to be accessible to everyone. So some people might have embossing powders from their old stamping days. Some people might not. Just need to grab my acrylic block. 2 seconds. Most people have acrylic paint at home. Now, if you don't have one of these fantastic things called a gel plate, why not? Basically, when you buy your gel plate, most of them come in a clamshell packaging, so keep this packaging. They will come with a clear acetate, like a thinner plastic sheet on both sides. Take those off and put them in your stash to use on something else. Do never put them back on your plate. Just put that back in the clamshell. So when I'm finished, all I do is stick this back in here. So when you purchase your plate will obviously not be as dirty and grubby as mine because I don't clean it. I'm dreadful. So they have 2 sides. It doesn't matter which side. Today I'm going to pick the cleaner side. I'm just putting mine on a piece of, this is Perspex that I picked up at a junk shop or a recycle shop. It basically just, it's a flat surface to hold my plate so it doesn't move around the table as much. I could put it on one of those Tim Holtz glass cutting mats. That works really well. I could put it on a piece of paper. I just like it on this because it's got a bit of weight to it. Now, a gel plate is flexible. The benefits of a gel plate is you can roll out a very thin layer of paint, and it's great for using with stamps, with these kind of stamps. And any excuse to get my gel plate out, I do. If you know me or done any of my classes in person, you know how much I love my gel plate. I'm just going to grab a baby wipe to clean off the ink, if I can see them on my table. No, I'm going to have to pause. I can't see where my packet is. So I just had to grab a baby wipe to clean off the stamp because I've got a bit of Versamark ink still on here. So I'm just going to give it a light clean. And this is the way we clean it up after we've got paint on it. Leaving ink on your stamp, not so much a big deal. You don't want to get it caked up into the little squares. Oh my God, into the circles. Long day, too many videos filmed in a row. My brain goes, look. So you don't want to, when we're finished with the paint, you don't want to leave paint caked onto here because paint is acrylic, like plastic, and it will dry and damage your stamp. So you just want to wipe the paint off. What I do is I'll show you how to clean it on paper, and I just keep stamping until there's no paint left. And these are durable. You can actually throw them in a bucket of soapy water, soak them for a little while, and gently remove any of the paint or the ink. Obviously, this is a more fragile stamp than some of the others we sell, so you do have to be a bit careful because it does have that movement in it. But that movement means that we can do fun stuff with it. Okay, so we've got our gel plate. We've got it down on our surface. The paints I'm going to use are the Dina Wakley heavy body paints, so from the Dina Wakley range. Again, my friend from Hillbilly Scrapping, this is where I get my stuff from. The reason I like these is, oh, well, I love the colours. That's the first thing. And being a heavy body paint, basically that means it's a bit thicker than normal paint. Yes, normal paint works. You just have to watch. Some paints are opaque, so you cannot see through them, which these ones are, or some are translucent, so they're semi-see-through, translucent like my gel plate. You can sort of see through it. So just be mindful of what paints you're using on your gel plate. Some work better than others. I find the heavy body of paints work a little bit better because the paint's not so liquidy and it grabs to your stamp a lot better and stamps a lot better. So we're just going to put out a little bit of paint. So I like to, when I do my stamping like this, I like to do 2 colours. You do more than 2 colours, but watch you don't make mud. I like to get sort of some tone on my stamps, on my stamped images. I don't like them to be the one flat colour. I'm just trying to grab my samples again. Which ones are the paint? This one is paint. Oh, all these ones are paint because I just made that card. So let me get rid of all those. Sorry, guys. So these ones are some of the paint ones. And as you can tell, well, that one's a bit one of the colours. They're not stamped perfectly. You've got a bit of white showing. And also there's a bit of mixed colour in these. So I like mixing 2 colours, and you'll sometimes get a bit of different colours on the stamped image, which looks really cool. So I'm just going to mix these colours and spread them out using a rubber brayer, like a hard rubber brayer, not a sponge. When you're brayering, you want to brayer like down, lift your brayer up. It's hard to do it off the screen. Lift it up and go again. You don't want your brayer to be in contact with the plate all the time. Doesn't matter which way you go, left or right, up or down. It's a bit awkward for me because I'm sitting doing this. Usually I stand and do my brayering. Okay. Oh, if you want to know those colours, it is lime and peacock. Some of my favourite colours. Now we've got a nice thin layer of paint on our gel plate. We're going to take our stamp and we're going to curl it again. Actually, it doesn't matter. On your plate, you can put them down straight. We're going to get 2 different pieces of paper to use on this. If you've never used a gel plate before, it is a surface to put paint on, make marks in, and make prints. So we're going to use this one, but we're not going to use the other one that we make, but I'll show you in a minute. Clear as mud. So you don't need to curl it on your plate. You need to curl it when you stamp. So we can just put it down here. Again, the first one may not turn out that great because you have to build up a little bit of ink or a little bit of paint on your foam stamp. So just holding it down for about 20 to 30 seconds. As you can see, if I can pick this up while we're doing that, you can see on the gel plate where that paint is missing, where I've put that stamp in. So that's going to make a pretty pattern paper that we're going to use in our art journal one day. That'll go in my one day box. One day I'll use it. Okay, so here we go. We've got a decent image for the first one, actually. The paint is almost dry when you stamp it here. because you're using such a small layer of paint. So just pressing it into the gel plate again, picking it up. Now I want to do it the same direction because I had that issue before. I thought I'm just going to stamp them all over the page wherever they fit, when to make my card, and I had some facing the wrong direction. So you need 7 that are facing the right or 7 that are facing the left. So just picking that up again, and I'm sort of intentionally putting them in a different spot on the gel plate, and I'll show you that in a minute if you've not gel plated before. It's quite warm here today, so my paint is drying rather quickly. If you're in a humid place like Queensland, I'm actually in country Victoria, if it's a warm day, you'll find your paint will dry a lot quicker, so you have to work a lot quicker. But these are still cool. I still like them, even though they're a bit faded. So now that I've got 3 stamps off here, I could roll out some more paint on top of this, but I want to make a print because this is the great thing about the gel plate. I'm sorry about the bumping. So this is 160 GSM paper by J. Burrows from Officeworks. I like it because it's not as thin as photocopy paper, but it's not as thick as cardstock. It's an in-between. So it works really well with this particular design because we're doing so many layers of the paper. And it's easy to fussy cut because it's a bit more strong than photocopy paper, but not as strong as cardstock. So just putting this down and just sort of pressing the paper onto the plate. And when we peel this off, we are going to get this awesome print. Now this could become a background for a card. I could fussy cut these images out and use them on my art journal. That's the great thing about gel plating is you get this and then you get this, two for your money. So we're going to put a bit more colour out. I'm going to put a little bit more paint out than I normally would because it's quite humid here today and it's drying quite quickly. So for this size plate, which is a 5x7 size plate, you're wanting probably about 1.5 green pea sizes of paint. That doesn't sound like a lot of paint. You don't need a lot of paint at all. The thing is, the downside with gel plating is if you have too much paint, you don't get a really nice crisp print. So we're just going to throw this on again. I think I've got a better amount of paint this time. And it is experimenting with your gel plate. You might stamp out 4 or 5 and you might not like any of them. Don't throw them away. These make great embellishments in your art journal. Art journaling doesn't have to be perfect. On your card, I like it to be a little bit more perfect, but as you can see, that's a bit darker, which is really cool. Just going to grab another sheet of paper so they are looking fun. So it may take you 3 or 4 stamps to get the right amount of paint on your gel plate. It may take you 3 or 4 stamps to get a nice stamped image. If they're looking a bit like this, add a bit more paint, but you don't want to add too much paint as well. So it's a happy balance. These are looking gorgeous. And I'm just deliberately putting this stamp up different ways and on the plate different ways so I get different bits of pattern paper like this. And you can see this one, I've used obviously some black or dark paint. I don't clean my gel plate between uses. You could see it's a little dirty. I love these flecks and grubby bits. It gets picked up from another plate, another print I did. So just consciously having a look at the time. Oh, we've got plenty of time. So you need to go ahead and stamp out 7 of these right-hand side ones, which I've done enough. So I'll put this over here. As I said, I won't bore you and watch you. Oh, I've got embossing powder on that. Been using lots of embossing powder in the last few days. I've got it everywhere. All over my desk. Time to clean up. So you've sort of got enough paint on your plate. When you peel your print off, you shouldn't have much on here. If you've got too much paint on your plate, you've used too much paint in the beginning. So that's a really nice, that would make a really nice card background as well if I put that one down there. But that's really cool. I could cut the middle bit out of it. So we're actually not going to use these ones today, but these are 2 bonus bits of paper we made while we're making our embellishments for our card. So to clean up our brayer, all I do is roll it onto a scrap piece of paper, Again, I don't throw this out. I use that in my art journal. I will give this a quick wipe with a baby wipe as well. I don't clean my gel plate any more than that. If it's got a lot of caked paint on it, I will sometimes, if it's got lots of layers on it, you can sort of pick off the layers around the edge. This one's quite clean actually. But I'll leave those little bit specks of green, and that will come up in my next project. Unless I want a totally clean plate, and then I'll just dry it with a baby wipe. Where can I put my gel plate? So this has obviously got a little bit of ink on it, paint on it still, so I'm just going to basically give it a wipe. Just moving to a clean bit of the baby wipe each time, and I'm just going to basically brush until I've got no paint coming off. And I do go and soak these probably at the end of my play session. You don't want to leave a lot of caked paint on them. Like all stamps, you sort of want to look after them. Just want to be a bit gentle when you're doing this. What I tend to do is do it from the fat side down, or the bottom down, and just brush like this. More than brushing, sort of going like this will damage it, but straight down the vine. I'm actually holding its little bit of stem on the tail. So that's about it. Yes, it's got a little bit of green on it and it stains a little, but that's fine. It'll be ready to use again. Oh, I actually had 2 baby wipes there. Okay. Now, what are we up to? So we've got our stamped images. Now it's time to fussy cut. These are quite simple to fussy cut out, and you can fussy cut them as much as you want. Just trying to locate my scissors. I thought I was organised and had everything at arm's reach. Me, organised? No. Not a good word. Okay. So I'm just going to fussy cut a couple, and then I have got some pre-prepared so we can put our card together, because that's the most exciting bit. So also, when you're picking pattern papers, you also want to probably have cards, paperweight papers like Craft or that sort of weight. Not cardstock, because cardstock's a little thicker to cut out, a little harder to fussy cut, and it'll build up too many layers on your card. So we have probably about 3 layers of paper on these wreaths as it goes round. So if you're doing that with cardstock, it tends to get a little thick. So these Craft weight ones, or what else have I used? Some different, that sort of weight of paper. I don't know in GSM what that is. So the easiest way to cut them out is I like to roughly cut them out of the piece of paper. We're actually going to cut them with a little bit of a sort of a border around them. So if you can see this one, it's got, I don't know, would that be a centimetre? Not a centimetre. Millimetre? Probably a millimetre border all the way around. Doesn't matter if it's not exact. You're really not going to see it. So I like to just generally cut them out. This may be a little hard for me to cut on camera. For anyone that doesn't know me or a regular viewer of my channel or my business, I actually have low vision. And my vision is that bad, I'm not allowed to drive a car. Silly Vic roads. Well, it's probably better I'm not on the road. So sometimes when I'm fussy cutting, I have the image quite close to my face, so I can see. And obviously, I wear glasses with distance, but when I'm doing close stuff, I take my glasses off. But we'll see how we go. I'll see if I can stay in camera. If I go out of camera, I apologise. So if you haven't done a lot of what we call fussy cutting or detailed cutting before, there's a couple of hints and tricks. Grab a pair of scissors with quite a fine tip on them. I have seen people fussy cut with big scissors. You'll sort of find a pair of scissors that you like. I can do them with these big Tim Holtz ones. These are the pink and white ones are a pair of embroidery scissors. I like them because they've got a fine tip on them. I wish they made Tim Holtz ones with a fine tip and bigger handles, because these little handles do get a little sore sometimes. So the trick is to hold your scissors in the one spot and move your paper around. If you're trying to move with your arm like this, with your scissors around your paper, you'll end up in a whole lot of trouble. You keep your scissors in the one spot, you then can use your non-dominant hand to spin your bit of paper around, and you get a better look. So I'm just going to start here with the tail. And just cut around. I like to cut those bits off as I go, just so I don't have a lot of wasty paper, and I'm looking over my glasses to see what I'm doing, because I can't see through my glasses, to do this sort of stuff. So I'm just going around. If If in doubt, cut a little bigger border. You can always come back and trim it more. And as you can see, I'm making a pile of little bits of paper. As I come around and go out, I cut every little bit off. It saves having this big tail of paper around. So I tend to sort of roughly cut the first time, and I'm going into the stem, and I'm sort of mindfully keeping the same sort of gap of about 1 millimeter all the way around. As I said, if you cut too close, it doesn't really matter. And I did do it on that end bit. So as you can see, my scissor hand is staying in the one spot, and I am sort of spinning the bit of paper around with my non-dominant hand. I'm using my left hand to spin it around because I'm right-handed, but you'll do the opposite if you're left-handed. So as you can see, as you go around, if you cut these little bits of shreds off, it's a whole lot easier than having that whole big bit of paper hanging there. One of these I didn't do quite square, so I'm just going to come back in and neaten that up a bit without cutting off a finger. So now when it comes to this side, I'm not particularly going to go into every little nook and cranny because the leaves are almost touching each other. If there's a big gap, I'll go in, like this bottom bit, I will go in and sort of cut out that extra piece. There we go, that didn't take long at all, did it? So I'm not going to go in and cut these little triangles out here. You're not really going to notice it on the wreath. I could grab out my craft knife and cut those bits out, but hey, life's too short for that. I can't be bothered. So that's 1. So you need 7. So with the magic of television, I'll be like that, will I? With the magic of television, I have some pre-prepared. Every time I do that, I feel like that chef. I'm just watching. I don't put things on my wet paper. So same for these ones. Fussy cut them around. I will use these ones as well. If you actually order from my store in the month or during the week-long, what are we doing? Week-long craft live sale. Can't talk today. You may actually get one of these cards in your order. You may get a different card. I've got several different cards on the go. So these are the ones I prepared earlier. So we're going to put one of these together. So it doesn't matter which way what you've used, clear embossing powder, gold embossing powder, paint. The concept of putting the card together is all the same. So these two here, I've hand cut this mat. These are 6-inch cards. So I've hand cut this just a smidgen smaller. I think it was 5.5. These ones I actually got smart and decided to grab out I've got some Cuttlebug dies and a Cuttlebug, and I've cut these mats, and you can see there's a little bit of stitching here, and they're a little bit more even. Yes, I can't cut and measure paper. Blame it on my eyesight. So I have cut some, and these are just 6x6 cards. So I have cut some of these mats and pre-prepared some so we can move along. So what I decided to do was, when I was rummaging through my paper stash, I picked a bold print for the back and a more subtle print for the top for my wreath directly to sit on. Now, if my wreath was going to sit on that, it would sort of get a little lost. This one, I found the stripes were a bit smaller. It was a bit more subtle. So this one I did reverse, only because my striped bit of paper wasn't big enough. But I do like that. But this stripe, as you can see, is a bit more bold and a bit more bright. So it's better to go in the background. So I don't even know the measurements of these. It was whatever my die fitted. So then I've got a 6x6 white inch card, and they'll be stuck on like that in a moment. So you do need that. You need a 6-inch base for your card, and you need a mat. You can mat it once or twice. What ones are we going to work on? We've got glitter, 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 or we've got, let's do the painty ones. Doesn't matter if you do the glittery ones, or the painty ones. Let's do the painty ones. So these ones I've sort of done darks and lights. So you can do all the same colours like I did on this wreath. Sorry, there's lots of talking. Let's get on and make a card. So you can do all the same colours. If you're not doing all the same colours, because we've got 7 wreaths, have 2 out of 1 paper. So we've got 2 darker ones, and then we've got 3 of another colour and 2 of another colour, just to mix it up a bit. And these are the tail end ones, which I'll show you after we've made one card, because we do need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Those take a bit more because they're the offcuts. But once you make 2 cards, then you can get a 3rd card out of the offcuts, which is really cool. Okay. So I've picked a stripe to go in the background. This was actually reversible paper, which works really well to coordinate things. So this is going to go on like this. We're going to put that aside for a minute. We're going to build our wreath. Now, how we're going to get a perfectly circle wreath, we are going to take a roll of double-sided tape that's had a bit removed from it, because it was the perfect size when I picked it up. We are going to make a wreath template. So we're just going to trace around this. I'm just using photocopy paper. It doesn't matter how messy you are tracing around this, you're not going to see it. So we're going to cut this out. You could do this with a die if you had the one the right shape, but I didn't, so we're going to do it the old-fashioned way. As I said, you're not going to see this, so it doesn't matter if you're really rough with your cutting. And this is just photocopy paper. Okay, we don't want to be that rough with our cutting. Let's trim it up a little. Okay, so now if I stuck my wreath pieces on this, you're going to see that white. So what I want to do is actually cut this down to be about a 5mm ring. So I'm just going to stab the center of it and just go around. Again, it doesn't really matter how accurate you are, because this is all going to be covered up. We just need a guide for our circle. I'll lose my voice today. Trying to film too many videos in one day. We need a guide for our wreath to sort of run around. I tried to do it without this guide and I could not get it circular, and it was annoying me. So I thought there has to be an easier way. So I'm not actually going to use those card bases at the moment. Go up there. Okay, we're going to grab some glue. I like liquid glue. I'm going to use the 450 Helmer. Hillbilly Scrap and sells this. It's great. It's probably a bit overkill for the paper, but actually, I don't want the gold one in there. Oh, actually, we might throw some gold in there. Do I have a second gold one? It'd be nice to throw some gold. I don't have a second gold one cut out. Do I? Let me see if I have a second gold one and we can sprinkle some gold in, because I want at least 2 if I'm putting gold in there. Oh, do we? Oh, that'll work. No, that's the bottom bit. Let's put gold in the second card we make with the end bits. I'll show you that, and we'll just use this one. Okay, because I don't want to sit here and make you watch me fussy cut another one. Okay, so we've got our 7 pieces that are all facing the one direction. So these are all facing right. The ones that we did today, we stamped out, were facing the other direction. Does not matter. That you just need 7 that are going either left or right. Right? Okay. So now what we're going to do is we're going to cut these down, because obviously if we do this, it looks a bit funny. Yes, you can make a wreath with 4, but I found it looked a bit funny. So we're going to actually take our scissors and we're going to double check before we cut one how we cut them. I think I know. Okay, so 1, 2, 3. Okay, so we cut down the 3rd level. Okay, so we are going to count down. We're going to ignore this top bit. We're going to count down 1 double set of flowers, 2 double set of petals, 3 double set of petals, and we're going to just snip in here. So we've just snipped that one off there. This is a bit crooked here. This doesn't look so nice, but we're going to fix that up in a minute. So make a pile of those ones we snip off. So we've got our first piece here. So it doesn't matter where you start on your circle. We are just going to start. And what you'll find is this stem bit will actually trace around your circle that we've got. So let's pick out another one. What I like to do is mix up the colours. So I don't like to put 2 of the same colour together. So let's grab this one. And we're just going to round off the bottom. These bottom bits are going to be covered up, so you don't necessarily need them. So when we're placing this around, we're going to place the tip of this onto roughly onto the, let me double check, I've forgotten. Okay, so it's going to cover two. Let me have a look at the other one. Nope, not that one. This one. Okay, so when we place them on, we are going to place the tip of this one coming up to be just above this one here. This is going to be covered up somewhere into this range here, so it makes a nice curl. I'm just going to stick my scissors there so my ring stays. So I just like to play with my placement first before I start gluing. And this one's not as curly as it should be, but that's okay. Okay, so we're going to go and take off 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're just going to cut that in there. You can sort of trim these up if you end up with a bit that's sort of straight and not fussy cut. So see how that's curling around a bit better? So we're sort of putting that tip on the second lot of petals. Okay, let's go with this one. So again, we're coming into 4. So we're just going to line that one up there. As you can see, I'm sort of going dark, light, dark, sort of. I'm not having all my light pieces. These do get a bit fiddly too, you get glue on them, but you sort of want to have a look at your light and dark placement more than anything at this stage. We're not wanting a perfect circle. We're sort of wanting to look at where they're placed. So that one sort of goes there, and the last one goes this one. Sorry about that, I had to put my mother hat on for a couple of seconds. Okay, so what are we up to? Now, we're up to this, and what I've 2, 4, 6, 7. Okay, so now I'm finding I need to space these a little bit, so they're going to be at the bottom of that one. And I've got this here, which is the same colour, which I'm not happy with. So I'm going to grab this one, move this one around here, this one around here, and put this one here. So when you're doing the same colour, it doesn't matter, you can stick them anywhere. But we're going to do that. Okay. So when I stick them on, where's one of my card examples? I've only stuck them under the centre, sort of the centre stem. I haven't put glue on these petals, so they sort of flick up. And I like that they sort of bunch up and sit up. They're not all sort of stuck down. You could put some foam tape under them as well, but I like them, want them to be quite flat so I can send them out in as Christmas cards. So I like the fact that these are sort of flicking up a bit. Gives the wreath a bit more dimension without having a lot of dimension there. Clear as mud? Clear as mud. Okay, so the way I like to stick them on is the first one, sort of leave them on your desk around the way they're positioned, so you remember. Just gotta wait for this glue is fantastic until you get down to about a third, and then you just gotta wait a second. I was actually looking for a hair tie today. Oh, you should see my house at the moment. It's a little messy from doing all these classes and planning all this stuff for October. I'll be glad when it's over because I can clean up my mess. Okay, so a little bit of glue. So I've only done about 1 centimetre of glue. I'm going to start with my first one. It doesn't matter which one. So then I'm going to put my glue for my second one. I'm going to put a little bit of glue on the ring and a little bit of glue up to that first petal, because my second petal is going to come up and sort of touch that second one. So now at the moment I don't have any glue under here, so I have to go back and put a little bit of glue to hold that bit down. So as you can see, none of this ring is showing, so it doesn't matter how messily you do this. So now we're going to take this glue and just put it on the bottom petal and come around a bit more. Doing this with liquid glue, you have a bit more of wiggle time. This one's not so, when I stamped it, it wasn't so curly, but we're going to make it work. This is why when you stamp them, you just got to be conscious that you are curling them right around as far as the stamp will go. So just continuing to put them around. Didn't glue as far as I wanted to. So I'm just putting the smallest amount of glue. I'm not putting a lot of glue. I'll add more glue to the pieces when I glue them to my card base. So if all goes well, you should have something like a wreath and something like, what I can do is, because this glue takes a few seconds to dry, it is called quick dry, but you have a little bit of a wiggle room. So I'm just being conscious I'm not sticking it to my desk. So just wiggling these around just a fraction, just to make the spacing a bit more even. Okay, I'm happy with that. I could wiggle and squiggle all day, but it will make a good wreath. So basically this tip here is covering up the bottom of the wreath, so it's looking like a continuous wreath, which is really cool. I'm glad I didn't leave it on my table any longer. I would have stuck it to the table. I did that with my last one. So I'm just going to tuck that under there, and then it should meet. What have I done? Tuck that under there. Actually going to cut my paper wreath so it'll form a bit more of a circle. That one should be coming up and over. So just make sure when you glue them on, and that wreath is just a guide, so you certainly can cut it like I just did, and if your last piece is not going in correctly. It will depend on the amount of curl you've got in your pieces. So when you stamp them, just make sure you're curling the stamp as much as you can without forcing it. So I don't really want to force it, but I'm sort of curling enough so all these petals touch, and you sort of can't gently, thanks car, can't gently push it any further. I had lawnmowers going this morning. Oh, now we've got cars up the road. Seriously, to get quietness to film lately, it's just been a calamity of errors. Just conscious of my time. Plenty of time, plenty of time. So this is our wreath. Now, we're going to put these layers together. So this is a trick I found off a YouTuber. So I'm just using some double-sided tape. I could put this up on foam tape, but yeah. I want these to be nice and flat to send with Australia Post. So just putting some foam tape all the way around the edge, and if you've done a card class with me before, you will know my trick. So I'm just not wanting these. I've just pulled the tips of these up so I don't overlap them, because I don't want the tape to overlap with the white bit underneath. Does that make sense? So I can still get it off. Okay. Now I've got tape on all four sides. What I want to do is, I cut my nails the other day, bad idea. I want to grab one of each of the four pieces. Now it doesn't matter which end I grab. One of each of the four pieces of the tape, and just folding it back and scoring it with my fingers so the tail sticks out. So basically this is the front piece of the paper. So we've got these tails of our double-sided tape sticking out. This is how I line things up, because I don't know whether it's my eyesight or whether it's just me. It's probably just me. I have trouble lining things up. So I can move this around a lot because there's only tiny bits of tape exposed. It's not really grabbing a lot. So I can move this around until I'm happy. Then where my tape is exposed, I give it a little bit of a push, pop my hand on it just gently, just to hold the bit of paper so it doesn't move, grab this tail and pull. And you have got perfectly lined up, well, hopefully. You should have perfectly lined up paper. If it's not perfectly lined up, hey, that's a handmade card by Melinda. So I'm going to do that on the back here as well to take it down to our card base. And I just had a thought. No, I've got my stitched bits on the right way. I'm known for sticking things upside down and back to front. So I'm just going to pull these tabs back again. This is great for scrapbooking or card making, this little trick with the double-sided tape. I wish I could remember who I saw it from. I watch a lot of YouTube videos. and I pick up bits and pieces from everyone, and for the life of me, I learned this like several years ago and just can't remember who it was. So if it was you and you're watching my videos, thank you. I'm not clever enough to think of that, but thank you, thank you. Okay, so again, I can line this one up. There we go. Pressing it down the corners and on the top. I love how they curl up when you pull them up from under here. They look cute. Sorry. Too many videos filmed today, going nuts. But if you've done a class with me in person, you know what I'm like. I'm like this in real life. It's a bit nutty. That's okay. So that is our wreath. Now we need a chipboard word. Maybe. So we've got 2 different style chipboard words for sale at the moment in our store. There might be more. So we've got sort of that one, or we've got this one. I think we might go with this one because I like it because it's a bit more funky. Now we're going to give that some colour. We can do that in several ways. I'm looking for my pen. Lost my pen. I could heat emboss it, which I have done on some of them. This one I probably don't want to put shine on because I tend to heat emboss the pieces of chipboard if it got heat embossing on the card. And basically this is why I've got a dirty ink pad, is I just tap the ink pad on top, sprinkle embossing powder on top, heat it up the same you did with the stamped image. This one I'm just going to do black. I think that'll look really nice. So I could take an archival ink pad or any black ink pad and dab it over the top of the chipboard. I'm going to do the cheats way. I'm going to grab this big fat juicy marker. I think this is from Daiso here in Australia. It's basically, it's oil based, so it smells a bit. It's like a Sharpie, but a huge one. So I find it great for just going over the chipboard. Chipboard you don't have to prime or don't have to gesso if you're using something like black or a dark colour or heat embossing. Now if you are heat embossing with a translucent ink pad, like a Tim Holtz Distress Glaze, you do need to put a coat of gesso or white paint down first. Oh, doesn't it look pretty? Because the colour is translucent. If you're putting an opaque colour over the top, so something you can't see through, it works just as well. Now, to put this down, we need to get the big blob of glue off the top. So what I'm going to do is, you can see the ring. You can barely see the paper ring we put on here. I'm just going to run glue around that paper ring. I'm not going to go put it on the little petals. I just have to wait for my glue to get down the bottom of my bottle. I need a new bottle. The only downside of this glue that irritates me is when it gets to about a third full, you just have to wait for a little few seconds for the glue to make its way, when you tip it upside down to the tip. But what I tend to do then is I will go buy a new bottle, use a new bottle to about half, and then you can heat this up in a pot of boiling water, or a pot of boiling water. Obviously don't put it in when it's boiling. Boil your water, let it cool slightly. Put this in, it liquefies the glue, and you can tip it easily into another bottle. It's a tip for you. Okay, so I just got noticed a glue string there I was going to get rid of. So we're just squishing that down, and I can decide if I want my card to be at this stage it doesn't matter if it's a side fold card or a top fold card. I tend to just play around a bit. This time I might put that down there. Do you reckon? Oh, that circle's a bit wonky, so I was just sort of straightening it up. Oh, I could put it... No, need it to be seen, so... No, maybe I'll just stick with the middle. Stick with what works. We'll put it down here. No, it gets a bit lost. Sorry, I could feel like this all day. Okay, in the middle it goes. Because let's just make a decision. So any products we use for the classes in my workshops with Craft Alive will be on sale in a special folder called, what am I going to call it? Great Australian Craft Show number 7 on the website. So if you're looking for any particular products that I manufacture, so in this particular class, it's the foam stamp, it's the chipboard words. It's a foam stamp and the chipboard words. It's, oh, okay, it's going back where it was because I put it down there, but that's all right. You can still see it. was going to move it, but I've already put glue on the page. We'll add a couple of dimenties to it. So these particular products are foam stamps, and the words will be available in that folder for a month for a discount. I'm just trying to find what I did with my pearls and bling. Bear with me one moment. Okay, I found them. So no, we won't use that one. I bought these red buttons in anticipation of using them, and they don't suit anything. Okay. These are just from the Reject Shop, these particular packet, but they are available at scrapbooking stores as well. Let's just go with the blue colour. I thought these would sort of insinuate berries. I don't know. I like that. What do you think? Let me know. May not be your colour scheme. Sometimes I put weird colours together because I'm a bit weird like that. Now, I'm going to show you the second card to use up these scrappy bits we cut off. Don't throw anything out in card making and scrapbooking. So that's our first card. So for this particular one, you do need a few more pieces because they're shorter. 2, 4, 6, 8, 9, 10. So you need about 10 pieces. So let me see. Hopefully I've got some. Actually, we're going to mix some gold into here, aren't we? So we've got 2, 4. So we've got 7 of those. So we need 10. So we're just going to cut some of these down. 8. Oh, that's on white. That's on cream. Got another gold white one. We can use that one. 9, 2, 4, 6, 8, 9. What else are we throwing there? So your bits, you can sort of throw multitudes of bits in, just depending on what sort of colour. I probably wouldn't throw like one glitter in. If you're going to throw different colours in like the gold, make it at least 2 or make it 3. Sorry, being indecisive. Throw another. No, we're going to throw another gold one in. I won't play with that one. Okay. So as you can see, I've got a few pieces pre-cut. I will stamp these out, and I'll actually pre-cut these when I am got some downtime. So sitting in front of the TV or doing that. So we need to make another circle ring. Grab our scrap paper out. Can I squish it on there? Can I make it fit? Oh, not really. So just using a ballpoint pen to draw it around that. Put that piece around for later. So if you make these cards, you'll probably have to make 2 of the front one, 2 of the ones with the top bit of the flourish, and then you can make 1 of these scrappy ones. I don't know, I think I like the scrappy one better. It's a bit more full in the wreath because the pieces are smaller. Love to see if you make any of these cards. You can share them with me on our Facebook page. I believe people can post stuff, or send me a message, and if you want me to share it, I can on our Facebook page. Now these ones look a bit funny because we've just straight cut them off. So you basically just go in with your scissors and just trim them up so they don't have that cut off bit. Yes, a bit of that is a bit close and you don't have your white border, but in the whole scheme of things, really doesn't matter. So I'm just going to go through and trim all these up. I love to see how people have interpreted my classes. In my classes, I like to teach more sort of techniques than, yes, you have to make this exactly the same as my piece. Feel free to take as much as you want from my classes. You can take the technique and do your own thing, go with it. You might have a stamp in your stash that'll work, stamping out multiple times and doing this sort of concept of a wreath. I'm not someone that can copy exactly. I struggle to do classes with people because I can't just make what they make. I like to put my own spin on it. I like to take generally, that's why I like watching YouTube a lot. I like to generally take the concept of what they're doing. It may be that I've heat embossed these. It may be that I've done them on a gel plate and then make it my own. Definitely going to lose my voice today. What is it with that? So that little bit I'm actually not going to keep. Usually I'll keep every little bit. So let's have a play around with our positioning of this one before my voice goes. I think I'll have to give up doing videos for the rest of the day. You don't want to listen to me croak. No, I'm not sick at all. I just, when I do too much talking, I'm not usually talking a lot during my day. And when I go to do it a lot, my voice goes, no, had enough, want a holiday. So we probably don't need as many because these are a bit bigger and that one's going the wrong way. See how that one's turning the wrong way? So that one we'll put back in our stash. Those ones that I don't use, this actually might be enough for these. Yeah, I think I can make those work, so I don't need that one either. So I'm just going to spin them out bigger so I remember which ones goes where. Actually, I think I have cut these ones a bit because I think I only had 3 and I've got 4 on some, which won't matter. But I think on my first one, I had them all these 3 shapes. So 2, 4, 6, 8. So we need 8 for this one. So it does depend on where you cut them down to how many you need for this second one. So exactly the same. Going to start with 1. And we're just going to overlap these by 1 double petal. So last time we're overlapping the top petal. So I'm just going to put glue on. Come on, glue. Be nice to me today. Problem is, if I store it upside down, this glue likes to volcano and just spill out everywhere. So I've got to put it back up the right way. So just overlapping by 1, following that circle around. It's a big great activity for the kids. If you've got older kids like teenagers, they might like to sit down and help you. The gel plate and the stamps would be great for younger kids. They can stamp out your images for you. And then you can sit and fussy cut them. Some kids can, some older kids will be able to sit there if you can get the teenagers to do any work. Sit there and fussy cut for you. Just make sure as you're going around that you're putting the images on, like I'm putting them all on top. Come on, glue. Be nice to me. I'll give you a rest after this, glue. Please be nice. Maybe if I lie it down, it will behave a bit more. Won't totally sink to the bottom. What was I going to say? It's going a bit. Always put, like I'm putting them on top as you're going round, or if I start with this one, I will poke it underneath so it has the same look. You don't have some on top and some underneath. Does that make sense? I'm just finding this is not curling as I want, so I'm just going to come around here and work from the other direction. So if you find your circle's not sort of working from one direction, come at it from another direction, and then we can sort of excuse me, work at it from both directions and make it work. It's obviously not going to be like a perfect circle, but you're sort of wanting it to flow like a circle. That's going to flow a bit better. See how I'm overlapping that one double because some of these are bigger? That works really well. Whoops. I'm going to stick that under there. So I'll often come to projects from either side. What are we doing? We're doing that one has to go under and that one has to go over. Okay. A bit of glue under and over. Oops. Don't stick it to the table. Okay, how are we looking? This one needs to stick down because he's flapping all around. And where's our card base to put this one on? We haven't picked one out, so let's pick one out. Let's see what it looks like. No, I don't really like it on that. Let's see on here. Nope. I better not get to the bottom of the pile and go nope for everything. I've got stuff everywhere. I was trying to, actually it might work well on there. Ooh, I like it on that one. Often when I do these and I'm working with scraps from my scrap box, I will cut a bunch and I'll use them eventually. I've got some other Christmas cards I will use these square mounts on as well. So, ooh, I like it on that. Like it on that. That one it is. And then you can sort of audition the pieces to what they will work on. So I think I like this one because it has a bit of that light green in the background. And this is sort of almost the gold colour. Almost. Told you I'd put weird colours together. So just going to stick this down and finish it off. And that's our 2 cards made. This one's made out of scraps. Actually, I want to go and make this with my big stamp and do it in big wreath in my art journal. I want to go do that and not do any more work. Isn't that dreadful? So just peeling back the edges of my double-sided tape again. Really enjoying doing these Craft Alive events. I am and filming videos and doing things, so I will have to. This is our last one for the year, boo-hoo. But I am endeavouring to do some more lives and classes and stuff. So if you like my Facebook page, which is the same as my business name, Scrapbookingncraft, that's got to be stuck on first. That will let you know about all the lives that are happening. We also do have a YouTube channel where a lot of the lives will get transferred to eventually as well. A lot of these classes will be hosted on YouTube after a period of time as well. So that's also the same as my business name, Scrapbookingncraft. So scrapbooking and then the letter N and then the word craft. And then you can find lots of different things to try out. This would equally look cool as a background on a scrapbook page with a bigger one as well. Okay, now. Whoops, I always forget which way these tails pull and always try to go to pull them the other way. There we go. Now we need some glue on our wreath. We'll grab ourselves a Merry Christmas chipboard piece. We'll see what colour we want to do it. Seriously, time to go scrapbook shopping on Hillbilly Scrappin', my friend's website, and grab some more glue, I think. This glue is starting to annoy me. Things annoy me, you don't stay around my house very long. Need a new one, and then I can decant that into a new one. Now we want this top or side facing. I think I like that little bit of white. Just sort of center it up, push it down. What I have noticed is down here, I don't know whether you'll be able to notice it. See how I've got these 2 here that are sort of looking funny because they're doubled over sort of on top of each other, but nothing else is. You know what you can do then? So you can quickly lift this up, grab your scissors, snip that petal off, and I'm going to snip that next one. Or maybe I'm going to snip that next one off or sneak it back a little. No, I'm going to snip that next one off as well. Just because they're bugging me. Maybe just half it. Let's snip half it off. Look, see how that looks so much better? You don't have the double. You have to trim that up. So feel free to give your wreaths a bit of a hair trim if you find when you've stuck it on your card that you've got a little bit, sort of that double overlapping was really weird and my eye was going to that and going very weird. It was just looking a bit weird. So now we can go top side or side fold. Actually, I like it like that. So now, because we've got the gold on this, do I want to heat emboss it or do I want to leave it? That is the question. So that's what the gold would look like. You know what? If we heat emboss it gold, then we don't like it. We can just colour it black. Let's do that. So to heat emboss the chipboard, as I was explaining before, just grab your Versamark ink pad. Just bear in mind that you'll get a bit of charcoal black residue into your ink pad. So maybe grab a smaller one. These are only $4 to $5 for this particular purpose because, as you can see, you're getting black into your ink pad, which is not ideal, but your ink pad still works. I don't know about you, but my Versamark ink pads do not stay clear for very long. I probably shouldn't do that with it. So I'm just going to take that first sheet away because I've got wet ink on that. I don't want my embossing powders, where did I put it, to stick to that ink on that paper. So I'm just going to put, should have grabbed my pair of tweezers. That's right. And gently pick it up. Okay, I didn't have as much ink as I wanted. Not a lot of the embossing powder has stuck, so I'm going to heat that up and then do that again. Probably need some more ink in my embossing ink pad. Just wait for that to cool down just a little and bring this bit of paper in that I've got the ink on, and I'm going to just press a bit harder. I find these little ink pads need to be re-inked a lot quicker than my big one, but my big one is gross anyway. And it doesn't matter if you re-ink over the black. Like this is opaque embossing powder, so you're not really going to notice the black or the bit of charcoal that gets into your embossing powder. Aha, that's a bit better. See how that's all covered? It's a bit hard to see. I apologise, it's a bit hard to see. But we've got more embossing powder on. And that's the reason I should have changed my bit of paper, because now I've just wasted all that embossing powder because it's stuck to the ink. That's right, I'll heat that up and put that in a it can go in the background of an art journal page. I'm not going to pick it up this time because it's there we go. As you can see, it's turning a whole lot. You see this side, trying to point to this side, you can see it turning, and it's going to be nice and shiny. So the chipboard works really well, heat embossing it. Just going to heat this bit of paper up to see what that looks like. That'll go in my scrap box and it'll become the background of an art journal page or something. So I like to show you what not to do in these classes too. And in my in-person classes as well, which I so hope can start up again next year. I'm missing them. It's my, it sounds funny, adult time. It's my weekend getaway from my daughter, and it's just my time to go be an adult and play and have lots of fun. Got a little bit on the end. I'm trying to melt into it. I don't know what I've got on the end of it there. It's not. That's bugging me, the little bit that's missing on the bottom of the C. So I'm just going to heat it up because I don't want to add more ink to it, and see if I can tip a bit of powder on it and heat it up. So embossing powder is fairly forgiving. If you don't get a good coat the first time, you can keep going back and heating up the layers and fixing little whoopsie bits. Perfect. You wouldn't even know I stuffed that up. Now if I edit that out of the video, you wouldn't know it all, would you? So I'm just going to tip that little bit of powder back in. Just be careful when you're heat embossing. It does get quite hot, like this is melted plastic. So you just got to be careful to leave it 30 seconds to a minute after you've heat embossed it so you don't burn your fingers. Because it will peel off and peel onto your fingers. And actually I like that down there a bit. I do. Even though it's off center, I like it like that. Suits me. I'm a bit off center. Sorry, just trying to see the time on my recording. I think half the time is waiting for this glue to drop down. So when you're gluing bits of chipboard like this, I don't need to get glue everywhere, like all over every piece. I sort of aim for the fattest bits. Just got a few glue strings, so I'm just breaking with my fingers. If you do get glue strings, this glue can be a little stringy. I find if you get glue strings and you actually see them, what you can do is you can heat it up and it'll almost disappear. So there is our second card. So which one did we make in this session? We made these two. So I made our two beautiful Christmas cards. Oh, do we want dimenties on this one? Let's have a look to see if the dimenties will work. Because we've got the gold, or we go the blue. Oh, because we've got the gold, we could go this colour. Yep, let's go 3 of these. Now these are in a big strip, but I'm just picking them off with my fingers and then I'm just gluing them down with the 450 glue. I'll put sort of one over there. So I'm sort of putting 3 dimenties on, just sort of spaced out, just to add a bit of dimension and bling. Dimensions, the dimenties are optional. These just come from a cheapy shop. And we'll whack one up. So not thinking, whoops. Just adds a bit of extra bling and catches your eye. Not sure whether you like the dimenties or not, but I think they're kind of cute. I've just got glue all over my fingers. So thank you very much for watching, and I will see you another day in another one of my classes. So there are classes every day from myself at the Great Australian Craft Show, and there's also lives on my Facebook page as well each day. So you can pop over. The times will be listed. It's usually in the early afternoon. If you can't catch the live, you can catch it on replay. They are recorded. Thank you very much.